everybody, how is everyone doing today? We're into March. Can you actually flippin' believe it? I can't. I cannot believe we are 2 months into the year. Anyway, I'm really sorry if I sound a little nasally. I'm just getting over some hay fever that's been happening in Johannesburg, but well on the mend and feeling good. So sorry for the noise, but I feel cool. This month I want to talk to you about forgiveness. Now, forgiveness for me is a very, very big part of confidence. And forgiveness is about confidence because it's all about moving on. Who are you going to forgive? How are you going to forgive them? How can you let things go and move out of your path so that you can stay on the right direction for you? And this is the really important part of forgiveness and why it links to confidence. If you are not forgiving and letting go of certain things, they hold you back. And it's just a plain and simple fact. When you are living in an unhappy state, if you are living in completely overanalyzing a situation that's happened even from years before, if you are constantly living in that, that's all you're going to attract. So forgiveness is a very, very big part of confidence. And that's what I'm going to be spending March talking about. Now, we're already on the 8th of March, so I've been putting up quite a bit already on all my social platforms, so you can go and have a look there if you've missed anything. And also, if you go to my website, thejoyfulcompany.co.za, and sign up for my newsletter, you get all the content from each week sent to you. And don't worry, you don't get a million emails. They only come out every 2 weeks. But it does condense everything and put everything that I've put out into one place for you, if you do miss it. Otherwise, head to my social platforms because I literally post every day something around this confidence and leadership, but this month around forgiveness. And that's it's a really scary topic, but it's a really important one, and that's why I wanted to spend a month on it. Okay, now into today and today's video and what we're going to do around forgiveness. What I thought I would do is tell you about who I've had to forgive along the way. And it hasn't been easy, guys. It's not an easy process. And trust me, I've only probably done it in the last year and a half. All this forgiveness, actually. But I've been working really hard on it. And that's the point, is understanding who I've had to forgive and doing the work around it. Now, in the video in 2 weeks' time, I will show you or talk to you a lot about how to forgive. But today I'm going to do the people that I've had to forgive. I'm not going to give out names because that defeats the purpose, and it's not here to name and shame in any way. It was work I had to do on myself, and I just thought that some of the people I've had to forgive and the examples of why I had to forgive them might be really relevant to you, and that's why I thought I would share that as we go. So let's head into I've got 5 people that I'm going to talk about that I forgave. Okay, so the first one is a girl that I became friends with when I was 5, or maybe even when I was 4, but very young. I went to school, she went to school a year later than me. So the year she arrived, we had agreed to meet for our first break, because we were friends, and she never showed up. And if I tell you that this moment of her not showing up for me was one of the most defining factors in me developing this thought of not being good enough, because I felt like I wasn't good enough for her to come and join me at break. I wasn't good enough for people to talk to me. I wasn't good enough for people wanting to be around me. And it really did set the tone for me for a very, very long time. In fact, it's still the work that I do on myself. She had absolutely no idea what she'd done, and she still doesn't to this day. But it was hectic for me. I was very, very, very shy, so I really didn't make friends very easily. And this was one friend that I had, and then she let me down. And the work that I've done on it is forgiving her, but forgiving the thought that I don't need somebody to tell me that I'm good enough. I have to feel it and I have to believe it. I don't need someone to show up at break and have a cool drink with me to make me feel good enough or to be liked. And it was a very defining moment when it happened to me, and it was also actually, amazingly enough, an incredibly defining moment of me moving forward when I forgave her. The second one also happened at school. There was a boy in class. He sat in front of me and my friend at the time, who was sitting next to me. I suppose she was my friend. And we'd had a spelling test, and we got our results back, and he and she had done really, really well, and I'd done okay, but not nearly as well as they had done. I'm not a very good speller, never have been, but I mean, I hadn't failed or anything like that. I just hadn't done as well as he had. So he had this long debate with her next to me about me and the fact that I can't spell. And I was horrified, but I just sat there completely frozen. I never said one word to him. I didn't tell him to shut up. I didn't tell him to worry about himself. I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't anything. I was already not feeling good enough. So I just sat there. I never said a word. And shame, this girl next to me tried to stop him from talking about it. When I think back now, she was actually quite mature in how she handled it, but because we were very little. But I had to forgive him. He was actually trying to help me, but I just didn't see that, and I hated him for it forever after that. He never came to my high school, thank goodness. But I was terrified of him because I thought he thought I was pathetic and couldn't spell. But I had to forgive him. I needed to remind myself that I don't need other people to judge me on them. I must just be on my path and do what's good for me. I had still done a pretty good spelling test, so why didn't I stand up for myself? And that was a huge lesson for me. The next one is an ex-boyfriend. Can't do this process without having at least one ex-boyfriend, right? But this guy specifically was exceptionally toxic for me, which I only realized near the end. It was a year and a half of fighting about everything. He made me feel stupid, he made me feel silly, he made me feel pathetic all the time. He would judge me on how I ate chewing gum. I mean, it was crazy. And for a year and a half, I fought and tried to prove myself. But amazingly enough, the one day I just woke up and I went, you know what, I'm out of here. I can't do this anymore, thank God. And I forgave him because he was the beginning of all my work that started. I literally broke up with him and I started with one of my coaches 2 days later, and I've been with her ever since. But she started me on my journey and I started me on my journey. And I forgave him along the way because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been pushed into this situation of doing all the work for me. The next one was a man that I worked for. I always felt like he did nothing and he kind of left everything to me, including a large part of his job. And I used to get so mad at him and so frustrated and I used to get like I was bitter at him. Eventually he left, and then a little while later I left, and I realized how much he'd actually made me grow because of it. And I actually phoned him and spoke to him about it, and we forgave each other, I think, because I think he probably was a bit angry at me for being the way I was with him. But shame, he's actually such a lovely man. He probably wasn't angry with me. But I needed to forgive him, and I needed to accept that if he hadn't done that as well, I wouldn't have grown into the leader that I was at the time. And I'll be forever grateful because he instilled such amazing principles in me to drive myself and be determined and to achieve. And then the very last one is I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive that I beat myself up so badly about all this stuff over so many years. Now don't get me wrong, there's still days that I do beat myself up. And I have to use my tools and my skills that I've trained myself into of getting me out of that situation and out of that mindset. But more often than not, I have learned that and accepted and forgiven myself for what I didn't think I was. Like forgive Joy for not believing in joy. And now I absolutely and utterly love every single little part of me. I love my funny knees, my big knees. I love my shy nature in social occasions. I love how loyal I am to anybody that I love. I love my straight vibe talking that I do, because it's always very black and white with me. But I think that's what makes me a good coach as well. And I love that I can listen and be quiet and not have to be heard. But when I talk, I talk. And I love that all about me. And I had to forgive me for being so disbelieving in me. I have so much to offer and so much value. And I had to accept that and fall in love with myself, like I spoke about last month. So big forgiveness was around forgiving me. Now, as I said, next video, we'll talk about how you forgive, right? But those are just some ideas on who I forgave and how I went about it in my head. And because forgiveness, guys, really doesn't have to be you going up and finding that person and forgiving them. Half the time they don't even know what's going on, because they're on their journey, not on your journey. So you need to do the work on your journey. Sometimes that involves talking to someone, as I did once, but other times you don't need to. It's about the work inside. So 2 weeks, look out for that video on how to forgive. But yeah, spend some time and think about who it is you need to forgive. And I promise you, one of those people is yourself. But it's worth it, I promise you. It really, really is. If you really, really, truly forgive, you will let go. And letting go is the most powerful, empowering feeling. Okay, so today's confidence tip. Now, it all kind of goes back to what we were talking about now. But confidence and your self-confidence gets eroded because of things that happen to you. So I want you to spend a little bit of time today thinking about that one defining moment, like I spoke about earlier, that really defined you. And what happened, and be honest. I mean, you don't have to tell anybody this, it's just being honest with yourself. And if you can't be honest with yourself, then sure, you've got a lot more work to do. But be honest, think it through and think about what you felt and how you felt. Then I want you to turn the situation around and tell me, or look at it as if this situation that you've just pictured for yourself again was happening to one of your very, very good friends, and she's come and told you this situation as if it was hers. What would you tell her? Because I'm pretty sure you would give her a lot of upliftment and building talk to make her not feel so bad, and you'll tell her a whole lot of good things about herself to make her believe in herself. And when you're doing that, I want you to then, once it's done, turn all that advice you would give to your friend on yourself. Because that's exactly what somebody should be saying to you, and you should be saying that to you. And it's just a great way to do it, right? So imagine it's happening to somebody else. What would you say? And it needs to be someone really important to you and special, because that makes it genuine, what you say to them. And once it's genuine of what you're saying to them, then turn it around and say it to yourself. And then our leadership tip for today. Now, as a leader, you have got there because you are experienced, right? And with experience comes the fact that you've learned a lot of lessons along the way. Now, learning a lesson out of a situation is the most important thing you can do, whether you're a leader or not. Because when you don't learn the lesson, the universe throws it at you again and again and again and again. And it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger until it literally will smack you in the face. And I hope that doesn't happen. But this is why the big things happen to us, because the universe is saying you're not dealing with this. So I'm going to give it to you bigger and bigger until you don't have a choice, right? And what you would do in a leadership situation, if it was happening to someone in your team, is you would sit down with the situation and try and unpack what the lesson is, which is really cool. But do it to yourself. When something's happening to you over and over and keeps presenting itself in different forms, sit down and say to yourself, what is the lesson here? What am I not getting? And again, be honest with yourself. It's only you that's talking to you. Be honest and think it through and get to the bottom of the lesson. And now my two favorites. My two favorites are actually the same kind of thing but different this week. And I'll pop pictures up in the corner for you. But they are my GHD styler. And I bought the new GHD Glide, which is basically a hairbrush that it has the heating pad inside it. It's absolutely phenomenal. You'll see it in the picture. But it allows you to straighten your hair super, super fast. And then my GHD styler I take and I just do all my ends. And I sort out so that it looks beautiful and smooth. But they are incredible. I'm just loving them. It took me so long to get a GHD. Long. I debated it. I tried to buy a second-hand one. I went through a whole long process. And then the one day I just went, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm getting one. And I got one. And then they brought out literally a month later the Glide. And I was like, oh my God, I have to have this. And I went out and got it as well. They've changed my world with my hair. I've always had such thin hair and I would fight with it every morning because it didn't do very much. And now I just love it. I love doing my hair in the morning. So they are linked below for you if you're interested in them, as well as all the bits and bobs relative to this episode. They're all linked below. And all my social platforms are linked below for you. So if you want to go back and have a look at things or find me on different ones, just click on the links below. But other than that, I encourage you to forgive yourself today. I encourage you to think about who else you need to forgive. And, but yeah, starting with yourself is the number one priority. We beat ourselves up so badly. We are the biggest critics of ourselves. We think everybody else is criticizing us, but they're not. They really aren't. They're spending time criticizing themselves, trust me, just like you are. So spend some time and forgive yourself. It's a lovely feeling once you do. Lots of love to you and lots of forgiveness. Bye.